I'm George Curtis. Welcome to It's Your Law. For a number of years, it's been my privilege to bring you people who know something about our law, how it's being made, broken, enforced, not enforced, ignored, improved, and we get your input as to how we can make this law for this country a lot better. Today's subject involves a very emotional wave of important anxiety and, in my opinion, unhappiness, bad news for our entire country. A subject is immigration, the welcoming and the protection of people who want to better their lives and their children's lives by coming to this country at great personal risk. My grandparents were immigrants from Germany. We have immigrants now from all over the world because they would like to have their children have the benefits of living here and the ideal. Maybe we're not living up to the ideal, but let's talk about that too. Our first guest is someone who is an immigrant, who is a businessman in Fond du Lac, very productive person contributing to the community, but he's also very knowledgeable about the challenges of being an immigrant in this country and the difficulties that our current government, state and federal, are making in order to make that production optimum. I'm going to look at a piece of paper because I don't get his name very well, and his name is Vincent Lizama Morales. How did I do, Vincent?
Much better, Vicente.
Tell the folks about your business and what you do.
Yeah, so I live in Fond du Lac right now, and my business is called Hair Lounge. So it's a salon located downtown Fond du Lac. And I'm a cosmetologist, so I focus mostly on hair and color and haircuts for pretty much the whole family. So,
where did you come from, and why did you come here?
So I came from Mexico. That's where I'm originally from, and came here to just with my family to have a better opportunity at life and to be able to just create what we all desire, which is the American dream.
Well, about that American dream, it has been the dream. We have traditionally welcomed people from all over the world. We were glad to get their cultural contributions. We're glad to get their labor historically. Each wave of immigrants has started at the bottom in terms of the economics. They've done the jobs that the people who were here for a generation didn't want to do for less money. It has filled our country with energy, ideas, and some of the greatest Americans have been immigrants or the children of immigrants. That climate's changed a little recently.
Absolutely. With just the new administration, it has created a little bit more of fear and just, as we said before, like anxiety of being deported much easier and faster. It's a little bit something that everybody that is an immigrant now constantly has the fear that if they get pulled over or if they do something wrong, now that starts your case for deportation right away.
What concerns me is the unfair, inaccurate, dishonest propaganda that is being put out by many people, by our government, about immigrants and their actual contribution. I lived through the hysteria of McCarthyism and the wave of demagogues making it sound like there were communists everywhere and putting people in fear. And the reactions were irrational. As a youth, I lived through the experience of World War II, where if you were Japanese, even though you were working and contributing in our country because the Japanese invaded us at Pearl Harbor, you were put in concentration camps. Again, a hysteria, a hateful hysteria, a very destructive one when we found out and let some of those young people join the Army. They were our most decorated soldiers in World War II. I see a hysteria of fear and ignorance right now. Do you feel that?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at just the different people that are working in our community, a lot of them are immigrants. A lot of people that do these starter jobs are immigrants, right? As I said before, like sometimes you want our job, but you don't want us, right? And I think that's a very big statement, because a lot of people say, well, why are you here? You need to do this like the legal way, but yet you're willing to hire people that don't have the legal status to be here. And why? Because you're paying them a little bit less, right? So it's one of those things where you want our jobs, you want our support, but you don't want us to be here. And I think that it's just, we feel that as a community, and it doesn't always make us feel great. So,
Well, not only that, my reading tells me that there are many people who are here as citizens who not only are underpaying the immigrants, they're cheating them.
mm-hmm.
They actually dishonestly are collecting whatever paperwork the immigrants have, so they're totally slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even pay them the wages, the minimum wages that the law requires, so that we are creating a level of slavery in this country by greedy business people who take advantage of people because they are immigrants and they are subject to deportation.
Absolutely, and I think the saddest thing is that a lot of the immigrants that come to the United States, they're already smarter than anybody else, because they've chosen to know that in their country they're not going to succeed with their efforts. So therefore, they're wanting to come to the United States to say, you know what, like, I can do better, and I'm going to do better. And so to have some of these immigrants working in farms, I mean, I've known some people that used to be lawyers, used to be teachers, used to be other aspects in their country, and now they're coming here to do some of the jobs that some of us don't want to do, but they're just so knowledgeable and so educational. They already have that education, but unfortunately we're not using that because they just don't have a number in order for them to work.
So what we have to do is educate the public, educate our elected representatives, fight in the courtrooms for the American dream of treating everyone alike and giving people an opportunity to contribute to our country and make it great again instead of making it hate again.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing we always ask from people is just educate yourself, and with a good resource of what that where that information is coming from, because as we said before, like, people just tend to gravitate towards something, and that isn't always true. So figure out your resources so you know the real information that's coming from that source.
Vincent, well said.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis. My guest this morning is Hiram Torres. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
And I want to thank you for coming and really educating all of us on what it's like to come here from another country, work hard for the benefit of your family and for other people, not only in your culture, but everyone's culture, and some of the impediments that we've put in your path. One of the things that has really troubled me is that I think in 2007, our Wisconsin legislature changed the law so that undocumented immigrants could not hold a driver's license. And these are people who are working, looking for work, have to travel to work, often working difficult, middle of the night, bad hours jobs that they have to drive to, and yet we have taken away their right to apply for the license to drive, which means that they either can't get to work and do the things that we need in our labor shortage, or they're going to have to drive illegally. And because they have to drive illegally, they are in constant fear of being stopped because they could be deported just for a traffic ticket, because of if they are in an accident, because they don't have a license, they're quite unlikely to have insurance. and they're tempted to leave the scene of an accident, even if it wasn't their fault, and that's at the risk of injured people. I can't think of any good reason why we aren't all better off if people are licensed drivers and responsible drivers, and they want to be. What's your take on this?
Well, that is also correct. Yeah, I mean, there is a path where we need, at the last talk, at the last segment, we were talking about immigrants contributing to the state, you know, in every single way. Everybody, or most of us, pay taxes, all that kind of stuff. But we also have to go to work, right? According to do our dues. We have to go to work, and unfortunately, people get stopped just going to work. You know, I will agree at the point where you are speeding, you know, going through a red light, drunk driving, that kind of you know, infraction can be punished. I completely understand. But just going to work, it is a little bit unfair, you know, because we want to be supportive again to the state economy and every single manner.
Well, of course, we know that perhaps because they have no choice, immigrants are often willing to do work that the people who've been here for a couple of generations are unwilling to do.
I know.
And we're in an economy right now where the farm economy, which was our primary economy for 100 years, is really at risk because they can't get people willing to come in late hours, milk the cows, clean the barns, work the fields and things like that. The majority of the people they're getting are immigrants, but these people can't get a license to go to work.
That's correct. Actually, every farmer depends on the size of the farm, right? But every single farmer has an immigrant, at least one immigrant working for them, and that's what I'm trying to bring up, trying to educate people where we fit most of the time on certain jobs where some other people don't want to be part of it. You know, like every single dishwasher in a restaurant, not every single one, but you know, most of them, people don't want to be a dishwasher or, you know, cleaning cows, you know what I'm saying? I mean, fields or taking care of these dirty jobs or like you mentioned it, job that some other people don't want.
Absolutely. Not only are immigrants providing labor at a time in our country when we're desperate for labor, I have to admit it, they're doing some jobs I wouldn't want to do,
Sure.
but I would do them if I had to support my family. And that's why they're doing them. Mm-hmm. And of course, that has been the history of our country. We've had waves of immigrants historically, the German, the Polish, the Irish, and so on, and people from the Hispanic-speaking countries, the Hmong people have come and done a great contribution. And I don't know of an industry around here that doesn't seek immigrants because they're willing to work.
Correct.
And they're willing to do the tough jobs, and they work for less. But yet we've put a block in their way so they can't legally get to work.
Yep. As I mentioned, we were not blessed of being born in this country, but we are trying to find a way to contribute to the country. And if we find the path to do it, we will seek that opportunity. And that's why we are trying to educate people about the situation where we are trying to do just better for the state level. You know, federal level, it is a bigger issue at this very moment, but at state level, I believe that we can do something, of course, with the support of voters and, you know, especially, like I say, educating people. And they will be probably, when we approach somebody to explain them the situation and trying to educate in the proper way, they're willing to cooperate. They're willing to let me know what can I do. I mean, they're there. They're there. And this very point, we are not asking for people, if you belong to a certain party, to change party, right? I mean, we are not asking you that because it could be offensive for certain people. But after we share our experiences, after we share what we want to do with the community, with the state, a state level, and the people is willing to say, well, let me know what can I do for you. Well, we are asking for people to support this movement. It is actually at this very moment a movement in the state. It is named, I believe, Coalition for Safe Roads in Wisconsin, and we are trying to support this movement. We are trying to approach legislators, and we are trying to get some feedback from the police department, the different police departments. We are trying to have some thoughts on the Department of Transportation also, because it will be, again, beneficial if we are allowed to get a driver license. You will learn the rules of the road. You will take the exam. You will take all this stuff to allow you to get a driver card. And for some people, they misunderstand the point. Getting a driver card, you will be allowed to vote. That is not true. That is not true. I mean, we will not be allowed to vote because we are not citizens. We are in need of.
We're going to have to take our second break, but you make a great point. The driver's license would allow you to drive legally, buy insurance, be responsible, show up to work, produce, pay taxes, but not vote. It's not costing us a dime, is it? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law, and my guest, Vincent Lozano Morales. Did I get that correctly?
Almost.
Not quite.
Yeah, not
why don't you correct me?
Vicente Lezama Morales.
Oh, I wasn't even close, was I? Anyway, it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And the subject that we're discussing is so important to all of us in America, but I think it's especially important to people who want to be here. They came from a different country, they saw the dream, they had an opportunity to better their families' lives, they were willing to take risks and sacrifices, and I'm glad they aren't quitting. But there are some challenges, and one of the areas that's so confusing to all of us, including me, is exactly what these different terms and levels of citizenship mean. Can you help us?
Absolutely, yeah. So, for example, for myself, I am a DACA recipient, so that means that my parents brought me before the age of 16. I graduated with a high school diploma and have been living in the United States for more than 7 years. So that is like a basic foundation of how to qualify for DACA. For DACA recipients, it isn't just an easy way to get citizenship. You still have to go through the same process that everybody else has. Having DACA does not give you a privilege in order to be able to get citizenship faster. It still takes, up to more than 25 years sometimes to even get to that point. With DACA recipients, so for myself, I have to reapply for DACA every 2 years. Which means that I have to reapply for my work visa and I have to reapply for my Social Security number. If I do not get to benefit from that and I get denied, therefore I lose my work visa, so I can no longer work illegally in the United States. And I also will lose my Social Security card as well, which I do not benefit anything from Social Security, even though I have one. I will not ever be able to benefit from it until I become a citizen. Then therefore losing that Social Security number means that I will no longer be able to drive or have a driver's license, and I will no longer be able to apply for other aspects that you need a Social Security card for. So, and then therefore, With DACA as well, you pay $595 every 2 years. You pay a lawyer in order for you to fill out your paperwork, but then also you take about 2 to 3 days to apply, because first one is to go and meet with your lawyer, the second one is to get your biometrics done, and the third one might be if you have to go back in order to, if you missed something or they want more information on something. So that's 3 days out of your workday that you have to also give out. So at the end, it costs about almost $2,000 plus to just reapply every 2 years for DACA. And I think the biggest thing is people don't realize that, when it comes to DACA recipients, like, we are the ones that are going to school. We are trying to, better ourselves and better our education. And the reason why is because we have parents that are pushing us to do that, and they want us to do that. And one thing that people don't realize is that we as DACA recipients were just citizens of the we're residents of the United States. So going to school, we do not get any federal funding for it. We have to pay either out of pocket or through loans. We have to pay out of state tuition because we're not considered part of that state. So then, therefore, we're only considered residents. So therefore, you have to pay out of state. I even as a business owner, right? As a business owner, there's such limited amount of loans that I can apply for if I need it, or even if I want to do anything, or even definitely if I need it. I cannot apply for those loans because I am only a resident of the United States. So the limitation on one that is very, very narrow, and it doesn't line up with all the things that you have to do in order to maintain that DACA status, which is to be a good citizen, to not get in trouble with the law, to not even get pulled over, because that can start your process of deportation or just doing something in there. So because you have DACA, you almost have to be a role model every single day to do the right thing, which I think many of us already are naturally, but it's almost like you have to do it. You have no choice. Otherwise, you will no longer have these little benefits that, to me, I'm blessed to have, because it has created to be able to have a voice, but other people don't have that, and I think that builds, we DACA recipients are the people that are trying to make a difference. So to not have as many privileges, sometimes they can make it difficult, but we're still trying our best to be there and get there.
Now, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're born here, you're a citizen.
Correct.
I did read in the newspapers and heard over the radio within the last week, however, that the administration in Washington, D.C. is trying to stop pregnant women from coming here because that would make their babies, if born here, into citizenship. So that's just a bit of government attack on that particular process, which has been our law since the Constitution was written, I believe.
Correct.
Now, what is a green card? I often hear that, and I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, so a green card is a way before citizenship that you can apply. There's different ways that you can get a green card. One of the biggest things is getting married to somebody who is a citizen. So, or applying for a specific job that is in need in the United States. Therefore, you get a green card, which doesn't make you necessarily a citizen, but it makes you a more legal resident of the United States. So you have a little bit more benefits as a green dot recipient. For example, I don't get to travel outside the United States. I can't with DACA. With a green dot or with a green card, you are able to travel. Also, having a green card does make you start a citizenship process. Once again, that's about a 7-year to just start the process. Whereas for DACA, you don't really get to apply for it. You have to do other things before that. So,
what status of immigrants are qualified to get the issuance of a driver's license in Wisconsin now?
So the only way that you can apply for a driver's license is you have to be a citizen. You have to be a resident of the United States. So you have to have a Social Security card in order for you to do that.
All right. Well, things have changed recently, nationally, in terms of our welcoming of people who would like to move to this country to better their families. And I think it would be fair to state that it's my impression that the changes are to make it more difficult. But we're out of time on this session. I want to thank you so much for what you have contributed to our understanding of the contributions of immigrants and how we can make their contributions more welcome, more beneficial to us and to them, and then we'll all be us, won't we?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Immigration is a very important issue today, and most of us don't know as much about it as we should. I often have people ask, well, why don't they just get their citizenship like everybody else? Why not do it the legal way? These people do not understand that on the average, unless your name is Ivana Trump, it takes about 25 years. And in those 25 years, you're living separately from your wife or your children who are in this country legally. It just doesn't work as long as we are putting up barriers. Or did I say walls? That's my opinion. I'm George Curtis.